Hi everyone, Kim Schofield here with another video on my YouTube channel. Thanks so much for joining me today. Today we are going to be using some new Wendy Vecchi products, and I'm going to be showing you a reverse stamping or ghosting technique, which you can see here on the coffee cup and in the background in that circle. So these are some of the new Wendy Vecchi products that I just got my hot little hands on. I have the new ink palette here, which I haven't tried out yet, so stay tuned for more techniques using that. Some new matte minis, which I love, and then new background stamps. Love this linen background stamp and this fun little doodle wreath. But today I'm going to be using this reverse background stamp from Wendy. So this is basically a large, solid red rubber stamp. There's nothing on it, no design. It's just rubber. It's attached here on this. It's got a cling back attached onto this piece of plastic. And so I'm going to be showing you a technique using this along with some other background stamps. And this is kind of how to transfer one design onto a piece of paper, or as I'm going to show you, matte minis. So this works best with solid images, some like you see here from Dina Wakley. So you'll want to have a solid image to do this technique. So I'm going to start by inking up, completely covering this background stamp with my ink. Now I am using archival inks. And I found these worked the best, better than Distress inks. So you might try maybe a kind of a hybrid ink might work well, but even the oxide inks, I found that these work the best. So anyway, I am now pressing my solid image into that ink stamp, and you can see that little leaf image there. Putting down a piece of cardstock. And I'm just covering that with some deli paper so I don't get ink on my hands. And when I pick that up, voila, I have a completely inked background, that pink inked background with that little leaf image, being popped out or removed from that background. So I'm just using up some leftover ink here from the leaf stamp, the background stamp, and I'm just putting some of that on a tag that I have, and then also on some matte minis. Don't want to waste any ink. So let me show you this technique again, completely covering my background stamp with my archival ink. And now I'm going to use that Dina Wakley stamp. And you can see how it's removing the ink from that reverse stamp. And I'm going to clean off my stamp every time in between. And this will give me a cleaner image. So I'm just stamping that off on some scrap paper, which you could use later in an art journal or something. So now I have that removed, putting down my piece of cardstock, and this is a mixed media paper I'm using. Rubbing that with my hand. You could use a brayer as well, and ta-da! Isn't that so cool? So you kind of get this very knocked back kind of design. It's almost like a tone on tone, I love it. It reminds me a little bit of jelly printing, kind of in a way. And I just found it to be really fun. Great way to add color also immediately onto matte minis. So again, I used a background stamp, and that immediately colors in the matte mini. So now I've got a pink matte mini, but then I've got the design already showing through in the background. So I really like this leaf background stamp from Wendy, so I am using that one again just to ink up a few flowers and just pressing those right on there. And you can see that image or that design transfers over to the matte minis. Isn't that cute? Quick and easy way to color. So now I'm going to go ahead and do this exact same technique. I'm taking this floral image from the stamp set from Wendy, and I am going to transfer that design onto my teacup there. I am in love with the new teacup matte minis. They're so cute. Are they fantastic? So I don't have to ink this up separately, but I kind of want this little floral design coming off the corner there of my teacup. And so I'm going to use that stamp, and I'm using again some archival ink. These are all Wendy's colors. I love them. And I don't have to I don't have to ink up the whole background here of the reverse stamp because I only am covering a small area. Go ahead and press that down. You can see I'm off at an angle, and that's just because I want that floral design to be on an angle on my teacup. Although I suppose I really could just alter the way my teacup's going. So I'm just figuring out which side I want the design on. And I'm pressing my matte mini right down in there. And I'm also going to press the saucer in there. And so that will give me just a little bit of that design that will continue from the saucer right up onto the cup. And again, I'm giving that some good firm pressure because I want all of that ink and the design to transfer onto the matte mini without getting archival ink all over my hands. And then I'm just going to gently pick this up, and you can see that sweet little design is transferred or stamped right onto my mug. So now I am ready to start assembling. I have die cut a circle there out of that the first piece that I did out of the fuchsia colored cardstock. And I'm just using this little swirl image. Again, these are all Wendy Vecchi stamps I'm using, except for that one from Dina Wakley in the beginning. So I'm just going to use that to look like steam coming out of my coffee cup. And I'm using some intense black ink to do the stamping. And then I have another teeny tiny little heart from Wendy, and I just want to color that up with some of Wendy's enamel accents. And this is in red. So this will be a nice pop of red. Kind of this will dry with a nice shine on top of it. And that'll be a great addition to my finished project. I'm just going to set that aside to dry. And now I'm going to work on my background. So I covered the background. I used a stencil and used some translucent embossing paste. And that has completely dried. And now I have a few oxide inks. And so because I use that embossing paste in the translucent, it's going to resist the ink. And so that'll make that stencil design pop out of the background. And I'm just using a few colors here. I think I have broken china and fossilized amber. And of course, where those overlap, you'll get a little bit of a green. I'm so in love with oxide inks. I just love the coverage. They're so creamy. And they go on so well and blend amazingly well. So I'm just going back and forth over these just to blend, make sure I have the colors where I want them. And then I'll add a little bit of water. You get a little bit of splotty dots with this because, you know, the ink reacts with the water, but these colors are very light, so it was very subtle in the background. And then I'm just going to blot off with a cloth, and I'll completely dry that before I go on. So now I want to add a little bit more to the background, and this is another Wendy Vecchi stencil, and I'm using some of her watering can ink just for a little bit of neutral. Everything needs a little black or brown. In this case, I'm going more towards the black color. And I'm just going to put this all over the entire tag. And I'm not, you know, being really careful about whether or not it's picking up every letter. That's all I want, is just a little bit of that showing through in the background. And that'll kind of tie into with the black that I have there for the little steam coming out of my coffee cup. So I'm going to use some foam tape. So I want to pop this up off the background, and I'm just checking here to make sure I have my tape in the right spot because I am going to cut off the part of the circle that is hanging off the edge of my tag. And then I'll cut off that excess. Don't mind the back of my tag. That was where I was playing with some other stuff. Never throw your tags out. You can always use them. I have a nice little stash of tags that I just practice different techniques on, and then sometimes they turn into full projects. So adding on my coffee cup there, and I'm going to use some gel, matte medium rather, to add my heart onto the coffee cup. I love the little pop of red against these soft kind of pastel colors. Go ahead and add my saucer, again with the foam tape for some nice dimension. And my project is almost done. So I have a few little butterflies, mini butterflies, and I just colored those up with some distress inks, added those on, and added a sentiment embossed in white embossing powder, and added 2 little butterflies, and my project is complete. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed today's project, and I will be back with more techniques using the new Wendy Vecchi reverse stamp. Happy crafting!